In this video, we're going to be talking about randomization in experiments and observational studies. So randomization applies to both experiments and observational studies. It's very important for both. For experiments, that randomization we see is that individuals are assigned at random to the treatment or control group. That's how we can have that randomization that can lead to a non-biased conclusion. For an observational study, however, we don't have that treatment or control group. And so here, to have randomization, we have random samples that can be selected for the groups being studied. And so we have comparative studies and causality. So for a rigorous randomized comparative experiment, like we talked in the previous video, you can make valid cause and effect conclusions. Those are possible. And that is only by eliminating sources of variation other than the controlled variable. So it's very important that we have identical situations except for that one variable that we're testing a cause and effect relationship. So again, like with that weight loss drug. For an observational study, on the other hand, this can identify correlation between variables, but not causality. And the reason why we can't say there is that cause and effect relationship with an observational study is because the other variables may be affecting the results. We don't have the two groups where they're under identical conditions with only one variable being different like we have with experiments. So that's why with an observational study, we can only say there's a correlation between the variables. So let's look at some examples of designing an experiment or observational study. So here we're going to explain whether the following research topic is best investigated through an experiment or an observational study. Then describe the design of the experiment or observational study. So a lot of this can be kind of what you think when you get to the homework assignment, as long as it makes sense. When you pick either one, you'll probably get it right. So number one, it says you want to know whether vigorous exercise in older people results in longer life. So I need to first determine whether this is best investigated through an experiment or an observational study. Well, if I were going to do an experiment, there would be a treatment group and a control group. So that means for the treatment group, I would have to make these older people do vigorous exercise, which might not be possible for those who are already unhealthy. So that means it's not ethical to assign individuals to a control or treatment group. I can't make someone that's unhealthy when, we have to make that random choice. I can't make someone that's unhealthy do vigorous exercise. So because of that, this is going to be an observational study. And I'm going to say because not ethical to make someone unhealthy do vigorous exercise. Okay, and then we want to describe the design of the experiment or observational study. So describe how we would go about doing this observational study. So to do this observational study, we would want to randomly choose one group of individuals who already exercise vigorously, and then randomly choose one group of individuals who do not exercise vigorously. And then monitor the ages of individuals in both groups at regular intervals. And then because of this, we would be able to identify a correlation between vigorous exercise in older people and longevity, but not causality. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, write this down, and then we'll move on to the next problem. Okay, so this is what I have written down. Randomly choose one group of individuals who exercise vigorously, another group who does not. Monitor the ages of the individuals in both groups at regular intervals. Okay, now looking at number 2, it says you want to know whether flowers sprayed twice per day with a mist of water stay fresh longer than flowers that are not sprayed. So first I want to see, okay, can this be an experiment? Well, I see this one can be an experiment. It's very easy to have a control group and a treatment group. The control group would not be sprayed twice per day with a mist of water, where the treatment group would be. And I would make sure they are both in same conditions. So go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try and think of a design of an experiment for this. When you think you have it, go ahead and press play and see what I've written down. So this is what I have written down. First, we would randomly assign flowers to a treatment group and control group. And we would have all the flowers in the same environment, so we know there aren't any other variables at play on whether the flowers are fresh. So maybe keep them inside so they're not being, for instance, rained on. And spray the treatment group twice per day. And then after 10 weeks or however long you want to see, note freshness of both groups.